Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemophilepod.com. Griffin Nafly is the most ambitious playwright of his generation. He's also 14 years old and living with his parents in a humdrum suburbia while dreaming of moving to New York City when his mom hires a 25-year-old handyman. Griffin's life and his new play take an inspired turn. The film is called Griffin in Summer, and a wonderful film, very well done, funny, dramatic, poignant, relatable for anyone, because it's just a rite of passage in this young man's life, and we watch it unfold. Again, the film's called Griffin in Summer. We're joined today by the director and writer, Nicholas Colia. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
It is a very, as I said, relatable story, but what elevates it is the cast, the performance on the part of the lead. Everett Blunck does a wonderful job. Owen Teague is in it. Melanie Lynskey is in it. Just a great cast. Tell me what the inspiration was for Griffin in Summer.
Thank you. Thanks so much for all of that. The inspiration was during the pandemic, I went back home to Massachusetts, where I'm from, for, what I thought was going to be like everybody a couple weeks and ended up being a few months. And to keep sane, I started digitizing home movies. And amongst those, I started digitizing the film and theater that I made out of my parents' basement when I was a teen. And the movie is not my autobiography. I wasn't a playwright. I was always more interested in comedy, but it was still like Neil Simon. So it was still 13, 14-year olds in bad wigs talking about their divorces, drinking, fake martinis. So I got kind of hooked on the idea or the theme of kids playing adult, and then the kid behind the scene being the most precocious of all. What would happen if something legitimately adult happened to him, like developing his first crush on an adult who's unavailable to him? So that was kind of the very beginning seeds of it.
To say that Griffin is precocious is a bit of an understatement. He definitely punches above his weight class in terms of his expectations for life, his ambition, his drive, and it all comes out in very funny and it just comes out in a very interesting way, and certainly a testament to the young actor Everett Blunck, who plays Griffin in it, that he is able to make that character come to life, but also, in addition to all of the sort of bluster that we see from him, we see the
Mhm.
humanity in his performance as well. So, just a really good match here in terms of the actors that you have in the film and their characters.
Thank you. Yeah, the cast, I mean, I could talk about the cast forever, but yeah, they were all incredible. Meredith Tucker and Betsy Fippinger cast the movie, and it felt like it was winning the lottery with this cast. Each and every one of them was fantastic.
So what was it about Everett when you saw him and sort of embody this character of Griffin? What struck you about him?
It was interesting. It was a long process. The Meredith and Betsy, I think, looked at like 450 kids or something just for Griffin, and I didn't see that many, but ultimately, the thing that we kept coming back to was wanting someone who drew you in. Me and the people making the film, we're going to have to stare at this kid for, a year and a half, and the audience has to stare at him for 90 minutes. And so I always thought, because Everett in real life is not like Griffin and is, from Montana and extremely polite. So I always felt like the brattiness of the character could be acted, but having someone who actually has, an adult level of emotions and a real kind of skill set as an actor, or that's more rare and something that I don't know that I can really direct someone to have, is just having that magnetism. And so Everett was just really, out of all of those kids, just the person who, we just leaned into when you saw him and when he auditioned. Having said that, I knew he was the best actor that auditioned and the most right for the role, but I did not know he was going to over deliver the way that he did in the film. I mean, that was completely took us all by surprise. We were like, that was not directed, or he just is, very talented and just completely, stunned all of us with, how gifted he is.
Well, the characteristics that you described about him in his
Hmm.
life come more or less come to the front as the film moves towards its conclusion. You see that definitely pop out in terms of, but before that, what we see is kind of a force of nature in terms of his drive, of his commitment to what he wants to do. But throughout, I mean, there are times when he's tough to deal with, and everyone around that feels him. But I'm glad that we were able to kind of keep his humanity as a part of him, even as he's demanding things from people around him that are, for a child or for a person of his age, are pretty aggressive. That's what comes across, and thankfully that, as you said, over delivers in the film because he has to be somebody that you want to spend time with, and I felt like he was.
Yeah, it's I like that's why it's hard for me to even really describe. Everett just has this ability to just hold the screen, and I didn't anticipate that I would end up with a kid. I knew we were making the film so fast and with such little time that I was like, okay, I can't do the thing where it's the kid who can only say two lines in a row and I am constantly having to cut away from, and it's just, but it did not feel like working with the kid at all. And he just never missed a beat. And so we were able to, leave the camera. We don't have to cut away from him in the film or anything like that because he's always so honest and present and human.
Yeah. Well, I described the basic outline of the story in the introduction, but I left out some things that are obviously very important to telling the story. You mentioned this is a story about a young man who is developing a sort of a sense of himself, and you even have that from the very beginning. I feel like he is tapped into this part of his being, if that's the right word, his person, the person he is. But to
Hmm.
watch that kind of blossom over the course of the film, if this is a good word or not, but just sort of coming to an understanding as he gets to spend more time around Owen Teague's character of Brad. Again, another very humanizing, very endearing, if you will, part of this journey that we're on with him. Let's talk about that part of the story.
It was definitely, I was inspired, like I said, from watching the home movies and then the notion of the adult crush and thinking, well, maybe these are the same film to have something adult happen to this kid. And him and Owen, we had cast Owen before we cast Everett. So Owen auditioned with, I think, the final three kids. They're kind of twins if you really squint. Like they look kind of alike even. And they also, Owen has if Owen was here, he would talk about how Everett auditioned with Owen and Everett got off the Zoom. The first thing Owen said was, "That's me. That was me at 13 years old." And I actually, it wasn't until after we were finished that I finished editing the film that I saw a clip of Owen actually at Everett's age, and it was kind of scary. I was like, oh wow, he was right. This actually wasn't how Owen used to be. So it was kind of them as a pair, and they have a great relationship on screen and off there. I think that Owen is a really great guy, and coincidentally, this was not planned, but all of the three key adults in the movie, Owen Teague, Melanie Lynskey, and Kathryn Newton, all started acting professionally when they were about Everett's age, about like 13, 14, 15. So we had kind of child actors or people who had been child actors. So they all, I think, really took an invested interest in Everett and really have, kind of circled around him to offer their experience because it's a trippy thing, I have to imagine, for Everett, but he's been handling it amazingly.
Oh, that's great to hear. And speaking of Owen Teague, I first became aware of him in the film To Leslie, and haven't really seen a lot of his other films, but between that and then, yeah, other work, but he has certainly been very good about picking the projects that he wants to be a part of because You Hurt My Feelings, this one, To Leslie, and then others. He has been in these films. He's really delivered. Now his performances are great, but he's also been pretty good about picking projects.
Thank you. Yeah, Owen is fantastic. I mean, I'm very aware that that it's not always going to be this great. That it's in terms of the actors all being, as kind and accommodating as this cast was. I luckily will get to see them all over the next, or almost all of them over the next couple of weeks as the film rolls out, and we're doing some special screenings. So I'm excited for that.
And Griffin in Summer will be coming out in Los Angeles and New York on the weekend of August 29th, so be looking for it. And once it's finished its theatrical run, it will be on what I call all the usual suspect in terms of the streaming services available, so you will have a lot of opportunities to see it. Also, I do want to go back to this journey that the film has been on,
hmm
Griffin in Summer. You screened at Tribeca. When was that, Tribeca's, your screening?
That was last June of 2024.
And it won the Founders Award for Best U.S. Narrative Feature, won Best Screenplay, U.S. Narrative Feature, and Special Jury Mention for New Narrative Director. And then also in the Spirit Awards, you won Someone to Watch Award. Was that 2024 as well? I'm going to.
That was 2025, but I was nominated. I was one of the three nominees, but
Oh,
I did
okay.
not win that award.
Okay. Well, you were nominated. Is it
Yeah,
with
it was still fun.
it?
I still had a good time.
As you are beginning this journey as a filmmaker, part of the journey has been their ability to identify great material, enlist a great cast, and put it all together. So, moving forward in your career, what are the kind of projects you want to continue to work on moving forward?
Yeah, I feel Griffin's been it's been about 5.5 years now since of my life. And so I feel since we premiered at Tribeca, I've just felt really open in terms of I'm open to what comes to me and what whether that's my own ideas or things that have originated with other people. And so I know that comedy will always factor in somehow, but I also like all different types of comedy. So I think I can say, even though these kids were amazing, that my next film will not star children because I think I'm going to take a break from that. So that I think is the one definitive thing I could say about my future.
Well, all the very best in your travels with Griffin in Summer. Looking forward to more work from you, and when the time comes, hope you find some time to come back and join us again. Again, we've been speaking with the writer-director Nicholas Colia. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks so much. Nice to meet you.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.